It took 6 guards, 2 translation drones, a high-frequency containment collar, and a unanimous vote of 7-9-1 to place Ambassador Daniel Reese under arrest. The one dissenting vote, Earth's own representative, Daniel himself, who sipped lukewarm tea through a polite smile as the cuffs clicked shut. The Galactic Council's Grand Chamber hadn't seen such movement in decades. Built into the husk of a hollowed-out moon, it was a place of ceremonial droning and slow, dull deliberation. But today, energy crackled through the room like static on an old television. Alien species of every imaginable form leaned forward, feathered, scaled, silicon, and synthetic, watching the human being calmly escorted down the center aisle. Ambassador K.R. Till of the Zerthax High Hive clicked his mandibles triumphantly. "Let the record show," he announced, "that Earth stands accused of subverting galactic protocols, psychological destabilization of member species, and the strategic exploitation of cultural ignorance." Daniel tilted his head. "I believe that's called diplomacy." Whispers, hisses, and whirring translations echoed across the chamber. "You will refrain from commentary," K.R. Till snapped. "Apologies," Daniel said, voice smooth as velvet. "Old habit. Earth prefers a two-way dialogue." The guards flanking him, hulking exosuits of the Jarnakan forces, tightened their grip. Daniel didn't resist. He simply turned to the nearest one and offered a quiet observation. "Left servos misaligned," he said. "Might want to recalibrate before it locks up mid-stride." The guard blinked, then stumbled. K.R. Till ignored the distraction. "You will be taken to Protocol Holding Station 17 for questioning and examination. Your status as Earth's ambassador is hereby suspended." Daniel offered a gentle nod. "Of course. Shall I bring my own tea, or will the prison serve Earl Grey?" From her seat, Councillor Naira of the Hisari Clade narrowed her eyes. "He's too calm," she muttered. "I've seen humans fight," rumbled General Threx of the Vaughn Dominion. "They only get calm when something's already burning." As they led him through the luminous corridor outside the chamber, Daniel took in the view. Through the transparent walls, stars drifted across the void like patient hunters. A cluster of patrol ships circled the Council moon, unaware that half their encryption was already unraveling, something Daniel had arranged months ago under the guise of protocol efficiency audits. They really should have asked what Earth meant by consulting. The hallway hummed underfoot. The guard on Daniel's right adjusted his grip. Daniel leaned toward him, casually. "You ever wonder why Earth sent me here and not a soldier?" he asked. Silence. "It's not because I'm less dangerous." He smiled warmly. The guard shifted uncomfortably. The group turned a corner toward the shuttle bay. A drone buzzed ahead, scanning for anomalies. Daniel whistled softly, a 3-note melody, almost playful. The drone stuttered mid-air, flickered, and shut down. "Glitch," one of the guards said. Daniel just kept walking. Back in the chamber, Councillor Naira watched the incident replay from a private feed. "Did you see that?" she asked. K.R. Till waved a limb dismissively. "Mechanical failure." 3 mechanical failures this week, Naira said. "All during human events. Are you blind or just arrogant?" K.R. Till hissed. "The human is in custody. That's all that matters." Naira looked again at the paused image of Daniel, calm, smiling, hands behind his back. "That's what worries me." On the shuttle, the guards double-checked restraints while Daniel examined the ceiling. "Curious," he said, mostly to himself. "They kept the old MK-9 stabilization coils. Bit outdated, don't you think?" "Silence," the lead enforcer barked. Daniel gave him a slight nod. "You're right, I should rest. Big day ahead. I hear your interrogators are quite creative." He closed his eyes briefly, as if napping. The silence hung awkwardly for a moment. Then he opened one eye. "By the way, does this route go past the Delvar relay station?" "Yes," the pilot responded before realizing the question was a trap. Daniel smiled wider. "Oh good. I always wanted to see it. You know, before it shuts down unexpectedly in 3, 2. A flicker. The shuttle lights died for half a second. A jolt ran through the floor. Systems reset with a loud chime. What was that? One of the guards asked. The pilot glanced nervously at his console. Delvar station just powered off. Daniel opened both eyes now, voice still calm. Oh dear. What a coincidence. The guards turned toward him, uncertain. One raised a weapon, slowly. You did this, he demanded. Daniel frowned. Please. If I had done something, you wouldn't be asking. He leaned forward, cuffs glinting under the light. But maybe, he said softly, you should ask what is about to happen. Back at the council, panic began to crack beneath the polished speeches. One by one, systems across council-controlled space flickered, slowed, and stopped. Outposts reported sudden communication loss. Data centers received instructions, signed by their own administrators, to purge themselves. And Earth? Earth remained silent. No ambassadors responded. No ships moved. Just that same unbothered smile from Daniel as he sat on a prison shuttle, hands tied, voice quiet, and mind already 10 moves ahead. From his seat, General Threx growled. This is a trap. Naira didn't argue. Kayatil, however, clacked his mandibles once more. No. This is control. We show the galaxy that even Earth must obey order. Threx stood. You don't control him. You barely understand him. He's a diplomat. Kayatil snapped. Threx shook his head. Here's the warning. As the shuttle descended toward holding station 17, Daniel finally broke the silence. Do you know why humans don't fear being outnumbered? He asked no one in particular. The pilot said nothing. The guards tensed. Daniel looked out the window as the prison came into view. Because we learned early, he said, voice low, that being surrounded just means the enemy is in range. He smiled again. And far away, buried in a forgotten server on the edge of council space, a single file opened. Operation Gentle Fang. Status active. Holding Station 17 orbited an airless moon in Sector Y-22, far from major lanes and even further from oversight. Designed for diplomatic containment, it was sleek, sterile, and heavily automated, everything the Galactic Council believed could suppress any species without unnecessary violence. They hadn't accounted for Daniel Reese. He arrived under heavy guard, escorted through blast doors and security fields with a calmness that unsettled everyone. The guards treated him like radioactive glass, fragile, but fatally dangerous. Daniel, meanwhile, kept his hands folded, gaze curious, steps perfectly in sync with his escort. Room 7, barked the station warden, a synth-bodied Trilaxi named Commander Vorix. High containment. Scramble all feeds outside the interrogation unit. Nobody watches this but us. Daniel glanced around as they walked, noting the ceiling layout, ventilation grills, camera placements. You redecorated, he remarked casually. Much brighter than your Sector X facility. That one felt like a dentist's office run by sociopaths. Vorix's red optics dimmed. You've been here before? Daniel didn't answer. He just smiled. Interrogation Room 7 was a minimalist cube, no visible furniture except a thin table anchored to the floor. The chair, oddly comfortable, adjusted itself when Daniel Saturday. A pale blue light illuminated the center. Comfortable? Asked Vorix. Delightfully so, Daniel said. And no mirrors. How considerate. Vorix didn't reply. He motioned to the wall. It slid open silently, revealing the first interrogator. The being that entered shimmered like liquid crystal, its form unstable, voice flat. It was a Keth 9, an artificial species designed for logical precision. Cold, analytical, immune to emotional sway. At least, in theory. Ambassador Reese, the Keth said, taking its seat. Your species is accused of psychological warfare against the Galactic Council. Explain your intentions. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Intentions? I thought I was here because someone didn't like my tone. Your jokes, metaphors, and ambiguity have destabilized over 19 ambassadorial relations. Daniel leaned forward slightly. Then perhaps the galaxy wasn't ready for open conversation. The Kether's body flickered. Distress? Confusion? It tried again. You recently made a Council AI question its prime directive. Explain. I asked it a simple question, Daniel said. If the rules are unchangeable, who made them? And who gave them the right? Silence. Then I asked if obedience to flawed law is still justice. He smiled. Apparently, that's not part of its calibration. The Keth shimmered violently, stood, and exited. Voryx growled. That was the logical one. I liked them, Daniel said. Polite. The next visitor was less so. Heavy claws clicked across the floor as Krallen of the Uvak entered, 8 feet of armored scale and muscle, a predator species born in gravity wells 10 times Earth's. He stood behind the table, arms crossed, voice low and threatening. You don't frighten me, human. Pity, Daniel replied without looking up. Fear would keep you safer. Krallen slammed both hands on the table. Your kind hides behind words and tricks. We face danger head-on. Daniel looked up now, meeting his eyes. Then you'll never see it coming from the side. Krallen narrowed his eyes. Tell me, Daniel continued, what's your species' most popular sport? Hunting, Krallen growled. Solo kill rituals. Jungle runs. No weapons, just instinct. Daniel nodded. Ours is called chess. No blood, just strategy. 2 players. One always dies on the board. Krallen leaned in. That's not war. No, Daniel agreed. It's worse. War wastes soldiers. Chess kills kings. Krallen hesitated, then stormed out. Voryx sat across from Daniel now. The lights dimmed slightly. The air grew colder. You've said nothing useful. Daniel sipped the lukewarm water provided. I disagree. I've provided cultural insight, political context, and live entertainment. You're mocking this process. No, Commander. I'm enduring it. Voryx tapped a screen. You've initiated 22 Council disruptions over 6 months. Communications blackouts. Missing diplomats. Code anomalies. Daniel didn't respond. Where are they? Voryx demanded. What did Earth do? Daniel looked him in the eye. What do you think we did? Voryx stood, pacing now. You're only one man. Daniel tilted his head. So was Archimedes. One lever, properly placed, can move a world. Voryx sneered. Poetry won't save you. Daniel's voice dropped. I'm not the one who needs saving. In the observation chamber, Counselor Naira watched every exchange on a split display. None of them broke him, she said. Jula 7, the AI ambassador standing beside her, emitted a low hum. He is not resisting. He is leading. Naira stared at the monitor, Daniel's face frozen mid-smile. I don't think he was captured, she whispered. I think he let us take him. Jula 7 ran a quick calculation. Probability, 84.3%. Meanwhile, deep inside the station's core systems, dormant subroutines began to stir. Files labeled Cultural Exchange, restricted opened themselves. Scripts rewritten months ago by unknown personnel began cycling commands. No alarms sounded. No warnings lit up. But the lights in room 7 flickered once, barely a second. Daniel smiled. Voryx returned after a brief silence. Final question. Daniel folded his hands. Go ahead. If this is an act, if you're here for a reason, what is it? Daniel leaned forward, voice soft. To see if the galaxy can recognize a warning before it's too late. Voryx froze. Daniel's tone remained casual. You see us as clever apes, new to the table. But every question I've asked, every joke I've told, was bait. And you all bit. He stood, slowly. The chair slid back with a hiss. The lights above him warmed. You thought Earth was adapting to the galaxy. He stepped forward. But really... He looked up. His voice turned colder. More human. We were testing it. The room dimmed again. Somewhere in the stars, another outpost vanished from the Council network. No explosion. No trace. Just silence. Galactic Command Station Virella Prime winked out of existence at 3:12 Council time. No explosion, no distress signal, just a silent disappearance, as if a finger had flicked its lights off. 3 minutes later, all internal traffic across 9 Council-Link systems rerouted, automatically, through Earth-owned satellites. Not a single shot fired. No one had connected these events to the human in Holding Station 17. Not yet. Ambassador Naira stood before the Council Chamber central display, tail coiled tight, fingers drumming against her sleeve. Her usual composure had evaporated. That's the 4th station in 12 hours. Councillor Threx leaned forward. Still no known attackers. Nothing, Naira snapped. No signals, no anomalies, just blackouts. Kayatil paced along the elevated ring of the chamber, mandibles twitching in erratic pulses. This is sabotage. Some rogue alliance. Perhaps the Vaughn Remnant or the Kaoan. Threx grunted. You're naming ghosts. From the far end, Jeweler 7's voice was calm, clinical. Probability matrix suggests intentional targeting of Council nerve points. Common factor, systems previously reviewed or optimized by Earth's diplomatic envoys. A pause. Then Naira said what none of them wanted to say out loud. Reese. Inside Interrogation Room 7, Daniel Reese sat cross-legged on the table now, rather than the chair, his jacket folded neatly beside him, cuffs deactivated hours ago, though no one remembered ordering their release. He held a small Council-issued stylus and twirled it between his fingers, humming something distinctly Earth-like. A tune. Maybe jazz. Commander Vorik stood nearby, arms folded, expression stone. Daniel finally broke the silence. They're scared, aren't they? Vorik didn't answer. I'd be too, Daniel continued. Not because of what's happening, but because they don't understand it. That's worse than fear. That's helplessness. The lights above flickered. Brief. Almost a heartbeat. Another one down. Daniel asked. Vorik stepped closer. What did you do? Daniel shrugged. Nothing, personally. Well, except say yes to a few field requests, approve a couple infrastructure recommendations, and gift a few council members highly persuasive assistance. Vorik narrowed his eyes. Oh, don't look at me like that, Daniel said. Your kind called it diplomacy. We just added human efficiency to the package. Vorik tapped his communicator. Warden to Central AI. Lock down this entire wing. Full blackout. Isolate Room 7. Too late, Daniel interrupted. Isolation protocols were reproposed last week. They're not walls anymore. They're windows. The lights dimmed again. This time for longer. Vorik didn't flinch. Why? What does Earth want? Daniel slid off the table, stretched his shoulders. A seat at the table. You had one. Daniel's smile thinned. We were invited. Not welcomed. Vorik stepped forward. So you're tearing down the council? No, Daniel said softly. We're revealing it. Elsewhere, inside a secure chamber aboard Council flagship Vigilant Harmony, emergency communications spiraled into panic. Outposts weren't just going silent now. Files were being copied. Vaults opened remotely. Deep Council secrets, alliances, weapon deployments, species weaknesses, were being leaked to their enemies. No known hacker group had this reach. No enemy had this precision. Only one nation had already been inside every core system. Earth. Back at Holding Station 17, Interrogation Room 7 had transformed. Screens across the walls displayed live Council failures. Red blips multiplied. A fleet near the Xorlan Nebula vanished from the tracking grid. A secure data vault on Argoth Prime began broadcasting its contents on public channels. Daniel watched it all quietly. Beautiful timing. I always said Operation Gentle Fang needed a little showmanship. Vorik stepped back, his face unreadable. Daniel turned to him. You've built a galaxy on fear, arrogance, and paperwork. And in 6 decades, we found every flaw. Because unlike you, we adapt. He walked slowly toward the observation window, knowing Naira and the others were watching. You thought diplomacy was our weakness, he said, louder now. It was the test. Naira stood in the council chamber, fists clenched. His weaponized information, she said. Social systems, code pathways, even alliances. Earth didn't bring fleets. They brought stories, sentences, systems. Jeweler 7 nodded once. They programmed culture, not machines. Kayatil snarled, then we counterattack. We revoke Earth's membership. Send enforcement fleets to Sol. End it before it spreads further. Threx barked out a short laugh. Naira turned. What? You think Earth hasn't accounted for that? You think they didn't plan for fleets? He pointed at the expanding blackout zone on the screen. We're not watching a war, he said. We're watching checkmate. Vorik stood frozen as Daniel gently tapped the glass. I told you once, humans don't need armies. He smiled again. Not cruel. Not smug. Just certain. We only need invitations. The lights dimmed again. Not a flicker. They stayed dark. The council met in silence. Not decorum. Terror. Half their communication arrays were offline. Trade networks had collapsed. Over 24 species were now rioting, paranoid, or demanding secession. And at the center of it all sat a man in a wrinkle-free shirt and scuffed Earth-issued boots, humming softly from a prison cell no longer secure. Daniel Reese. Ambassador Naira watched him through the observation wall of Interrogation Room 7, fingers shaking despite herself. She was too old to be frightened by a single human. And yet, he looked up and met her eyes. Smiled. Like he knew she was there. Like he always had. Inside the room, Daniel leaned back in his chair, sipping tea. Yes, tea. No one authorized it. It just appeared, on a tray, with a lemon wedge. Vorik stood rigid across from him. I've seen planetary coups, the warden said coldly. I've seen bioplagues, terrorist collapses, even black hole gambits. But I've never seen anything like this. Daniel exhaled. That's because we didn't use weapons. Just logic. Vorik scowled. You call this logic? Daniel's tone didn't shift. We studied your systems. Not to attack. Just to understand. And when you welcomed Earth into the Council, you invited curiosity through every open door. You exploited trust. No, Daniel replied. We tested it. The Council Chamber's emergency session had devolved into shouting. Lock the Sol system. Deploy antimatter frigates. Quarantine Earth's embassies. Each demand met resistance. Too late. Too many fail-safes overridden. Too many Council assets routed through Earth's logistics, comms, or cultural exchange platforms. Jeweler 7's voice, calm as ever, cut through. Councillors. We must assume we are no longer in control. A chilling silence. Naira stood, eyes blazing. Then what does Earth want? Subjugation? Collapse? A throne? A new voice chimed in, tinny, projected through the chamber's ancient speaker system. Daniel's voice. Actually, he said, we just wanted a conversation. The entire chamber froze. He was broadcasting into the most secure room in the galaxy. Live. Smiling. You never truly listened to us, Daniel's voice echoed. Not when we offered help. Not when we asked for clarity. You underestimated our kindness. You thought it was weakness. He chuckled. A classic mistake. Jeweler 7 tilted her head. What are your demands? No demands, Daniel replied. Just one announcement. Screens across the chamber lit up with maps, charts, shifting alliances, all rewritten in real time. Effective now, the Galactic Council has been restructured. Not destroyed. Just upgraded. On planets across the galaxy, Council-funded civil institutions began shifting under new flags. Not Earth's flag. A new sigil. One with no anthem, no borders. A coalition. Formed by the species Earth had quietly empowered. The ignored, the marginalized, the former pawns. Human diplomats hadn't come to colonize. They'd come to organize. Back in Room 7, Vorik stared at Daniel like a man watching a match flick toward a powder keg. This isn't peace, Vorik said. It's manipulation. Daniel set the teacup down. You call it manipulation. We call it strategy. Everyone wanted something. We just helped them find it. Sometimes that meant giving them food. Sometimes it meant giving them courage. And power. Daniel met his gaze. No. Self-respect. In the chamber, Threx slammed his fist against the console. You've destabilized an entire galaxy. Daniel's voice echoed softly. We exposed the cracks. You destabilized yourselves. Naira whispered, you were planning this all along. Now the voice smiled. You could hear it. Oh, Ambassador. You really thought we were just explorers. Back in room 7, the walls blinked once. Then twice. Then retracted. Not broken, released. Vorik stepped back, alarmed. What? Daniel stood, dusted off his jacket, and stretched. Prison's over. We needed the cover. What? You put me in isolation, Daniel said casually. Surrounded by your highest encryption systems, your firewall data cores, a perfect launch point. You used this cell as the central relay node, Daniel finished. Would have been hard to do it from Earth. But you brought me here. How could I say no? All across the galaxy, the words United Species Accord flashed across once council-aligned terminals. Human operatives weren't leading it. They weren't even visible. But they were everywhere. A whisper here. A strategy there. Quiet architects. Smiling. Daniel exited the cell, 2 guards at the door stepping aside, not under orders, but because somewhere deep down, they understood it was over. He paused beside Vorix. Next time, he said kindly, don't assume smiling means harmless. Then he walked into the corridor, whistling the same tune from earlier. Later that night, Ambassador Naira sat alone in her chambers. Watching. Listening. And thinking. They hadn't declared war. They hadn't fired a single weapon. But somehow, without conquest, without violence, Earth had won. She remembered Daniel's last line. You thought we were explorers. And for the first time in her long diplomatic career, Naira realized. Humanity had never truly arrived to join. They had come to replace.